Peddler, I can't believe you did that to me. Did that to us. Why did you let him go? Why did you give him that whistle? I mean, why? What? Okay, you were all warning the youth about this, but I just thought it was parental concern. It's not a big deal. No. Peddler, you hear stories about people who go in and they never come back, and you sometimes wonder, well, how did you know they went in? Well, we have one story of a person coming back. We don't have any stories about what the other people met or encountered. Were you the one that came back? Said the peddler to the farmer. No. Believe it or not, the mayor is. Him? He's so safety bound, I can't believe he does anything without double checking everything. Well, it's not my story to say. Well, then we should get a search party together. Peddler! I'm going to go get the mayor. You stay right there, Peddler. I don't know what the big deal is, the peddler would mutter, but he sits. Other people in the inn are not very happy with him, judging by their looks, and it looks like they're ready to beat him up if he attempts to leave. But the mayor comes after a long while, and you see that he's brought apparently the entire town to hear the peddler be chewed out. Mayor stands in front of the fireplace. Peddler, I warned the youth. The other parents warned the youth. And as you have not heard my story, I will believe that you thought it was just us being overly concerned and trying to prevent our children from becoming adults. But no, Peddler. I was the only one that survived. And sadly, I was the first that went in. And all of my friends that went in after me to try to get fortune died or never came out. Well, they might be alive. Maybe they just went to a different town. I doubt that. Severely doubt that. But as not to have this happen again, I will tell you the first time I went in, and the only time I went in, and the only time anyone came back. Well, why did you go in? Start there, the peddler says. For love. What other reason is there? The love of my heart. The love of my eyes, my body, my mind. Oh, I wanted her. She was the caravan's daughter. They came in every 3 months. And she and I had changed tokens betwixt the two of us. Spent mornings walking around before they had to move on, because they would only stay 1 day, maybe 2. So we didn't have lots of time to court. And I knew that anything I collected, I would have to store or keep safe until they came back. So I decided I would give mushrooms, which meant I couldn't collect it until the night they arrived. And that's what I did. My beautiful red-headed girl with green eyes, freckles, and strong as an ox, gave me a kiss and said, "Do you have the gift? Can I finally ask my father? Are you finally going to tell my father?" And I says, "I will. I need to go get it, and I'll be back." "Oh, good." So I grabbed my gear that I had prepared, a torch, I lit it, a tinderbox so I could have fire. a strong knife, and a parcel bag. And not a little bag. Sort of like yours, peddler, just in the size. I wanted mushrooms to overwhelm this man, because mushrooms were apparently very popular. So, I go in. Now, the mushroom patch I was aiming for, I knew of because the dire forest, you look at and you saw them. They were maybe 100 yards all the way in. Maybe 250 at most, but I couldn't see really beyond 100. But I could see a mushroom patch as wide as I was. Okay, I was only 15 then. I'm a little bit wider now, but I was sure they were there. And I went in. Full moon, could see easily in, no problem. You guys had no problem walking tonight. It's a full moon. I went into the forest, 5 steps. It was black. Pitch. As if I'd just walked into a building with no lights on, with no candles, no coals lit or anything. But I had my torch already lit, so I wasn't too worried. I held it a little bit more out so I could have a little bit more sight, and I saw the mushrooms. Started walking towards them. Now, there was nobody there. There was no animals. If I had seen this slimmer of an animal, I was smart enough that I would have turned right around. But there was nothing there. And so I walked. And I walked very carefully, slightly shuffling feet so that I'm not tripping over something. A little bit high so that I'm not breaking, stumbling on a hidden root or something. But I still tripped on something. And when I landed, my torch was still lit, but it had fallen, and I look up, and there's a white dress. There was nobody there, but there was a white dress in front of me, and as I kept looking up, that dress became longer, I swear. The train, as I noticed, was back a good 4 feet behind her, still pure white. It had moved the grass, so it was actually there. And looking up, I saw white hair, almost as white as the dress she was having on, or the dress was almost as white as the hair. I'm not sure, but they were both white. And then the pupils of her eyes. We call each other blue eyes or green eyes, gesturing to different people in the crowd who had those colors. Or occasionally even red eyes if you're really drunk. But when we're saying blue or green, that part, that was yellow. Now, she was gorgeous, but she was white-haired and white skin and yellow eyes. And she smiled at me. And my foot was still stuck on something, so I pulled at it, and stood up, apologized for falling down. She said, not a problem. Not a problem. What brings you into the forest? Or is the dire forest, as your parents call it? Or are you a visitor and are unaware that this is a forest filled with dire creatures? No, ma'am, I'm quite aware of that. I just... the mushrooms. I was collecting mushrooms. If you don't mind me collecting the mushrooms. No, that's fine. No, they're not my mushrooms. You can collect them. Do they belong to somebody? No. Nothing in this forest belongs to anybody until it's been collected for food. If you wish to claim the mushrooms, claim the mushrooms. So I claimed the mushrooms, and I said that too. Still feel silly for having said it, but she smiled at it, so I guess it was okay. And I filled up my sack and started going towards behind her where more of the mushrooms were. Who is the person you're collecting these for? The lady that I want to marry. Her father, to sell them. So you came in here risking your life to marry by gathering mushrooms. I didn't really think I was risking my life, but yeah, I was collecting the mushrooms. Oh, it's risking your life. in more ways than I think you will ever understand. Does she like mushrooms herself? I No, she always sells them. She would like to taste them, but she always sells them. She has never had them. Interesting. Here. She pulls something out of her pocket. Now, I thought that dress didn't have pockets because I didn't see any curves on it to suggest that she was holding pockets, but at the same time, as far as I could tell, she is a spirit. And she's still alive in there today, wearing a gown that white and long. In fact, sometimes I think I see her, but I'm not sure on that. I've never gone back into the forest. Well, that doesn't sound too scary, said the peddler. Peddler, are you an idiot? Anyways, I wouldn't have pegged you as one. Well, I started towards the mushrooms after thanking her for the gift and putting it in my bag, actually in my pocket. She said, but you probably want to go back now, though you are, of course, welcome to stay and see what would come. But if I was mortal, I would suggest going back. And I turned to look at her, and she's disappeared. I turn back towards the mushrooms, and I hear trees falling. Fast and very fast falling trees. Not just one tree falling, but over and over, repeatedly thumping against other things, dragging around, and then roars. Furious, angry roars like I've never heard before. Sadly, I have heard them since. And I hear her laugh. And I would run, or this will be very entertaining for me. So I run. It's just 100 yards back to the forest edge, right? Maybe 150. 200 at the most. But it felt like 5,000 or 7,000, and I ran because I couldn't wait to see the light. I had to just run, try to remember whatever tripped me, jump over that. I must have successfully because I didn't fall again. And behind me was a bear, a dire bear. At first it was far away, so I thought maybe it was a regular bear, but it got caught up to me fast, and it was no small bear. It was at least 100 foot tall, and trees bouncing around it as it's shrieking in anger and pain, as those trees are thumping and breaking against it, breaking bones. Hear it crack. Hear it hit its head again and again. It swipes at a tree and it bounces in front and bounces back and hitting the bear again on the head and bounces. And I think that's how I landed, because when I woke up, there was a branch. My head was bloody, and there was a branch right next to me, but it was just a part of a branch. And my parents calling for me, and my dear Leica, my dear sweet Leica, calling for me, calling me an idiot too. But really, I've never heard her call you that, and after you got married. No, that was the only time I ever recalled her calling me an idiot, was when she was yelling at me to get out of the forest and come meet her father. And I did, and told everybody else that there was a bear that they needed to go and skin, and wood to carve and grab for winter, and to smoke all the bear meat, because it's 100-foot tall bear. There's a lot of bear meat. We lived on that for a long time. And I gave the father the mushrooms. The father agreed, though he did wonder about the wisdom of his daughter marrying a person who would go into a dangerous forest like that. But at the same time, I must have been lucky enough to come back out. So father was going to let that slide, which I was very grateful for. And I married her. And I gave her the token that the spirit of the forest gave me. Was that the lace? That never got dirty? Never got dirty. When she got mad one time, she ground it into the dirt, apologized to me a day later after I apologized profusely for my stupidity that caused the anger, and she picked it up all ready to wash it as gently and thoroughly as possible, only to shake it off and it be as white as ever. And she goes, I love that spirit. And I loved her, my wife. But I never trusted that spirit. Because that spirit would have happily seen me die and crushed by a bear. Or just to run away. So, peddler, no. Don't ever encourage anyone to go into that forest. I don't think the dire bears, the dire wolves, or bats. And those are the creatures we do see occasionally and hunt if they come too close to the edge. I don't think they're the most dangerous things in that forest, peddler. So no, we're not going into that forest. Tomorrow, when it's bright in the morning, we'll form a human chain and we will slowly call for him going in. But we're not going to stay in there any longer than noon. Really? Said the farmer. I thought for sure. No. In the morning, with the light, we should be able to see. And if he's alive and the spirit's taking a liking to him, then maybe he's alive. But if he's gone very far in, there's not much we can do. I understand, Mayor. My father died in the forest too. All right. Well, that's for tomorrow then. Tonight is bed.